The Defense Department's Cybersecurity Maturity Model certification requirements will be in the new Polaris small business government-wide contract. It's the second major contract vehicle where the General Services Administration has used the CMMC requirements. Keith Nakasone is Deputy Assistant Commissioner for Acquisition at the Office of the IT category at the General Services Administration. Keith, welcome. Thanks very much for coming on. Why is GSA adding the CMMC requirements to these contracts, Keith?
Thanks, Francis. Thanks for the question. One of the reasons why we're doing this is Department of Defense is one of our major customers against our government-wide acquisition contracts. In addition to that, we want to make sure that the contracts are within scope so that people understand we can educate the industry partners that are leveraging our contract or actually going after our contracts would be able to compete in that space as well.
Are you worried that there are some companies that may decide not to bid, not to participate because they're not equipped or don't feel like they can compete, that they can get themselves qualified under the CMMC requirements to get on these contracts, Keith?
Great question. So the way we're building out the government-wide acquisition contracts is that we're layering it in, meaning that it's not a firm requirement within the government-wide contracts, but it is available to be within scope. So what I mean by that is the language is in the master contract, but it will be order specific, meaning that if a Department of Defense customer comes to us, we would be able to incorporate that language into the contract so that at the order level, so that we can comply with the DoD requirements at the different levels within CMMC.
So if I'm a company that doesn't expect to do business with the Defense Department, I don't have to feel like I'm going to be shut out of doing business with the agencies that I normally do business with because I either am not able to comply with this or don't choose to comply with this, Keith. Am I hearing you right?
Absolutely. So when we talk about the government-wide acquisition contracts, it will still be available for the civilian agencies to use. And again, at the order level, it will be incorporated if the civilian agencies choose to use the CMMC program or not. So it will have that flexibility.
So again, I know this is all speculation, but I imagine there are companies that are in these various positions, Keith, and are wondering how this will apply to them. If I am one of these companies that says, you know what, maybe I do want to make myself eligible for this. Is there a role for GSA to help them navigate the CMMC process, or is that going to be on the Defense Department, and should those companies look to the Defense Department to help them understand what they need to do and how to get in that process?
Great, thanks. Great question. We're definitely in partnership with the Department of Defense. We're working alongside them. So where we can benefit and add value, educate, train, raise that awareness for the program and the implementation, over time, we will be able to help facilitate and also educate the private industry partners as well through this process and engagement that we're working with the Department of Defense.
There is a concern that eventually this will become part of all of the contracts that GSA writes. Do you foresee a time where that's the case, Keith, or do you foresee that there are some contracts where CMMC requirements won't be necessary, specifically IT contracts, obviously?
Again, we're in the very early stages in the process, so we have to go through the evaluation, the assessment, and understand the ramifications as we go through the IT contracts, as well as understanding the framework and working with the Department of Defense, as well as our civilian agencies. So in time, we will be evaluating, assessing, and then responding to the needs that come forward.
I know this is still very new and that you're working through a lot of these processes. Are you hearing yet from your vendor community about any concerns that they might have, maybe that are different than the things I've asked you about, Keith?
For the most part, I think you're spot on. A lot of the activities and or engagements that we're having have been brought to our attention, and we're going to be working alongside with the Department of Defense to work through any of those issues, as well as to gain the momentum to support the CMMC efforts moving forward. But like I said, we're going to be addressing this as we take a deeper dive into this. We're using nonprofit organizations to help that private-public engagement to help better understand from a small, medium, large business the different frame of references that they may have for CMMC.
We just have a minute or so left, Keith. FCW reported not long ago that the draft RFP for Polaris most likely coming out in December. Anything changing that timeline between then and now?
We're still targeting for that time frame.
What else should people be paying attention to? What else should the vendor community pay attention to, either specifically in these two vehicles where you've already included CMMC, or in things that might be coming out in the future?
From an acquisition standpoint, I think being aware that we're actually injecting the emerging technologies focus as well as the socioeconomic programs initiatives that we have within our portfolio. But we definitely want to focus on the innovations. We want to focus on implementing the contract with the flexibility of moving forward with our IT infrastructure modernization efforts.
Keith Nakasone of GSA, it's great to have you. Thanks for coming on the program.
Thanks for having me.